some big wedding going on. Kapasele's song, Independence Cha-Cha, which he had composed in Brussels to celebrate the agreement struck at the round table, seemed to flow in overlapping waves from every record player and sound system in the city. Kapasele, who supported Lumumba, took him around town in his big white convertible. But like other Congolese musicians, he chose not to take sides in the lyrics of his songs. Instead, they celebrated the imminence of independence and urged unity. In the weeks leading up to the elections, various political parties presented to the public their candidates for the new Chamber of Deputies. MNCL was one of the few parties not to identify with any one ethnic group, but to campaign on a platform of national unity. The Parti Solidaire Africain, PSA, led by Antoine Gizenga, took the same approach. But most of the political parties were rooted in local interests, such as Kasavubu's Abako. Nkrumah urged Lumumba to prioritize the need for unity. He believed that women could play an important role in this process by bringing people together. He therefore asked Madame André Loin, a political activist and feminist from Congo, Brazzaville, to go to the Belgian Congo to make a call to African women to help bring the men together, setting aside the old quarrels between peoples. Loin, the daughter of a very young Banzeri woman and a French businessman, had been placed as a child in the 1920s in a Roman Catholic orphanage in Brazzaville. She had been mistreated by the nuns, who viewed her interracial origin as a sin. As an adult, she found it a struggle to define herself. I am not white. I am not black. She said, finally, I am an African. After the independence of Guinea in 1958, she went to live there, trying to support the new nation as it dealt with the hardship created by French's angry departure. There she met Kwame Nkrumah through Sekou Touré, Guinea's president. Loin and Nkrumah swiftly developed a deep admiration for each other. Through her friendships with Nkrumah and Touré, Loin was introduced in Conakry to Antoine Gizenga, who had just returned to Africa from a visit to Moscow, Berlin, Bonn, and Paris. Gizenga had been ordained as a Catholic priest in 1957 and had run a parish in his home region of Kwilu, but then left the priesthood. A man of few words, he had none of Lumumba's charisma or popular appeal, but was respected by many Congolese for his keen sense of justice and his honesty. He habitually wore dark glasses, which gave him a sinister appearance to those who had reason to dislike him, including Howard Imbre. Gizenga said Imbre Gizenga said Imbre dismissively was early on what we will call it a puppet of the Soviets. They found that he had a following. He had a following in the northeast of Congo among his own tribespeople. I forget what tribe they were. But at any rate, he was able to raise an army of his own. He was immediately somebody we didn't like, Imbre said. As someone who was quiet and formal in his manner, as well as firm and reliable, a man of iron, Gizenga made a favorable impression on him. Made a favorable impression on André Loin, and she, in turn, made a favorable impression on him. In his 2011 memoir, Ma vie et mes luttes, whatever that means, My Life and My Struggles, Gizenga recorded being struck that this mother of 3 children, the eldest of whom was already 20 and the youngest 4, still had an ardent desire to serve the African cause alongside progressive leaders. By then, nearly 40, Luin was older than both Gizenga and Lumumba, who were in their mid-30s. Like Nkrumah, Gizenga was keen for Madame Bluin to go to the Congo. And while he was still in Conakry, he arranged to meet her. He wanted to obtain her husband's permission. Everything depends on your husband, who must give his consent to your departure. But she brushed this aside. Everything? She replied in exhilaration at the prospect of joining the struggle in the Congo. Everything depends on me. Who wishes to go and serve the country of my ancestors? My husband must agree. She arrived in Leopoldville in April. Louis traveled widely through the Congo with Gizenga and other members of the PSA. By the end of May 1960, she had enrolled 45,000 female members in the feminine movement for African solidarity in the Congo Kwilu area. In her memoir, My Country, Africa, she described the resentment she suffered from the colonial administration, who did all they could to harass our caravan. They banned our meetings. They cut off our ferry boats. Sometimes we had to wait 2 days in the heart of the bush without food. One Congolese woman described her astonishment at watching Blouin address a meeting. She saw people dancing while Blouin stood, haranguing the crowd. Nobody has ever seen a woman like her, giving out orders to thousands of men. She thought Blouin was a white woman, or dressed in a village clothes and speaking Kikongo, a language Blouin had learned while growing up in the orphanage in Brazzaville. Herbert West, who participated in the Wilson Center Conference on the Congo in 2004, arrived the Congo in December 1959 as a young MIT field researcher in order to study the independence struggle. In the course of his research, he traveled through the territory of the Parti Solidaire Africain at the end of April, observing how the party mobilized grassroots support and handled its election campaign. He found Blouin fascinating. Who is this woman? He remembered thinking, she's wearing very fine perfumes. She has an air of Paris about her. They became lifelong friends. After Lumumba returned to the Congo from Brussels in early 1960 to serve as one of the 6 commissioners in the lead up to independence, Gizenga took Blouin to meet him. According to her memoir, Blouin noticed that he constantly moved his fine, long, nervous arms and was at pains to make her feel welcome and comfortable. Patrick's was his characteristically natural self at our meeting with him. It was he who came to the door of his residence to receive us, laughing, his white teeth shining. He shook our hands warmly. He wore black trousers and a white shirt. With a felling step, he led us into his receiving room. Louis felt a great deal of joy in his easy manner. The U.S. Consulate General in Newportville were deeply suspicious of Bluin and mistakenly assumed she was from Guinea. A telegram to Washington noted, check consul Virios and Guinean Chancellor to PSA, Madame Bluin, and other communist or leftist influences are at work, though immediate aims not clear. The Leopoldville secret police were also suspicious. One evening, in the company of Bluin and Gizenga, Lumumba produced a report from the police that referred to Bluin as a Métis woman from Guinea who was raised in Brazzaville. She is a courtesan. After having been the mistress of Sekou Touré, she became, in turn, that of Nkrumah, Tubman, Modibo Keïta, the president of Mali, and other well-known African leaders. Today, Gizenga is the favored one. This woman must not remain in the Congo. That's the police report. Yeah, a police report on her. They wrote that she's the girlfriend of this, the woman of that, and then now Gizenga. So they suspected that I know she can't be in the Congo. That's how powerful she was. Congratulations, remarked Lumumba to Bluin as he read the reports aloud. You are a success. The Belgian secret police, the Belgian secret service is very concerned about you. Then he read out more of the reports. Madame Bluin has a gift for speaking. Already, she is in demand in several provinces to organize new groups of her feminine movements. She is all the more dangerous because she spawns money and sex. He is sincere and tireless, a fanatic. That's another report. Oh, sorry, from the same report. The logic of this analysis, commented Gizenga dryly, was astonishing. To the Belgian secret police, she was both a war and a saint. They had no idea how to thwart her. So Belgium wanted the government of the Congo after independence to be responsive to Belgian interests. It threw a lot of money at the Parti National du Progrès, which was a coalition of more than 20 local parties from around the country. In Katanga, commercial and mining interests, especially Union Miniere, heavily subsidized and dominated Onakat, which had been created in November 1958 and was led by Moise Tshombe. Its key policy was the secession of the province from the rest of the Congo, which would enable foreign businesses to maintain their investments. Those businesses had much to lose. So between 1950 and 1959, Union Miniere's net profits were 31 billion Belgian francs, a sum that is equivalent to over $5.5 billion US dollars in late 2020. A British diplomat was told by a well-informed Belgian that Union Miniere had taken up the position that under no circumstances could they envisage the Katanga being governed by a central native body. They might accept a provincial puppet government. There was evidence that the Belgian government shared this position. In February 1960, a British official in Elizabethville reported to the Consul General in Leopoldville that the secession of the Katanga will be inevitable and easy. Indeed, some go as far as to say that this is just a result the Belgian government hoped from a deliberate and Machiavellian policy. Now the election. The election took place between 11th and 22nd of May, for the first time in the history of the colony, all adult male citizens 21 and over were enrolled to vote. In Belgium, women had voted for the first time in parliamentary election in 1949. It was one of the last Western European countries to give women the right to vote. But in 1960, this right was kept from Congolese women. Imagine, you know that somehow, you should know something, that the colonialists themselves, they never really wanted any right for women. Magna Carta didn't even come to effect in the UK, I think, until 1920s. UK, where they colonized all over the world. So women's rights or women's rights in the Western world was like a no rights. Women used to be properties of men in this West. Yeah, this same West. Women used to be their properties. You know, you could trade up a woman, you could pick them up anytime, you could dump them off. And because of women were not really, they didn't have access to their own wealth then, right? So they depended mostly on the wealth of men. So they just had to endure. And that's how much, to the point that they didn't see women as intelligent enough to decide or choose during an election. No joke. And you still have some of them in the Arab countries today. Okay, all these ancient archaic traditions and all of that, which actually became law. You know, anciently they believed that women don't have intelligence to decide on something. Do you know that? Around that time, when the these European countries, so when they were treating their women like properties, Africans, we were treating our women as royalties. Women were owning properties. Women were owning, in fact, we were crowning women as head of communities. Women were leading war in Africa. Women, we have women warriors. Or, got all kind of, they imported that, European mentality later into Africa. And then, still there were still some tribes and all of them who probably today treat women as properties. And I swear, right? Even northern Nigeria, where they are using religion to treat women as properties, as household property, right? They used to have a lady called Queen Amina of Sheba. That was a woman who led. Just so you know the role of women in that community before the Fulanis and the rest of them came. Do you understand? So you see a local girl who grew up to become a warrior. Not just that, she became a queen of her people. I don't know, I just thought I should tell you that because it's part of their story here. So in Congo, not until 1949, women are not allowed to make any decision like voting. Just remember that. You get that? So let's continue though. Now, they said since no single party had sufficient seats to govern on its own, it was necessary to form a government of national unity. The Belgian Minister of African Affairs, W.J. Ganshoff, Van der Meersch, who was in the Congo to supervise negotiations, promptly nominated Kasavubu to form a government. His nomination had the official support of King Baudouin. Lumumba angrily pointed out that this was wholly improper. At a press conference in mid-June, he exclaimed, in accordance with democratic principles, it is the MNC, the party which won more votes than any other in the election, that should form the government. The King of the Belgians should call upon the MNC to form the government. The MNC should have the right to call on minority parties to consolidate its majority. But what? He asked in frustration. What is happening today? He was suspicious. He said that the Belgian government and the royal palace are absolutely determined to keep the MNC out of power. They are now urging minority groups to form a coalition on an artificial basis so as to appoint a puppet government, which I swear the people will reject tomorrow if these maneuvers behind these scenes succeed. Lumumba. But in any case, Kasavubu was unable to form a government. He was defeated on straight vote 3 times running in the Chamber of Deputies. Lumumba's MNCL successfully entered into a coalition with the PSA, CEREA, and other parties to obtain a working majority. Badoin had therefore no choice but to recognize Lumumba as Prime Minister. In the lead up to the elections, Joseph Desire Mobutu had remained in Brussels as head of the MNCL office. At Lumumba's request. Now, he was back in the Congo, and Lumumba gave him the office of Secretary of State to the presidency, a key position. Antoine Gizenga was appointed Deputy Prime Minister. Justin Bomboko was appointed Minister of Foreign Affairs. Anicet Kashamura, the co-founder of Syria, was appointed Minister of Information and Cultural Affairs. And Thomas Kanza was made UN Ambassador with ministerial status. Andre Blouin was appointed to Chief of Protocol in the cabinet. She remained a member of Lumumba's inner circle as she had been before the election, working closely with him. Some members of the press dubbed them Team Lumumba. From Accra, Nkrumah was monitoring developments and sending advice through his personal envoy in the Congo. Andrew Yaw, that is Andrew Yaw K. Jane, our names deal. Anyway, a businessman well known for his discretion. Nkrumah urged Lumumba to facilitate the election of Kasavubu as head of state on the grounds that the Bakongo people were too important to be thrust aside. Lumumba followed his advice.